You know, we might be too old for this shift. What's up, geeks? My name is Kev, and I am definitely supposed to be here today on the Geekcentric podcast. Today, we're clocking in for our kinda spoiler-free review of Clerks III. But not only that, we got to watch the movie with and even meet Kevin Smith as part of the Clerks III Convenience Tour experience. Clerks III began a limited theatrical run starting in September, and while Smith continues his convenience tour across North America, the film is now available in digital form on Prime, Apple TV, YouTube, and a slew of other places. Now, before we get started, if you're joining us for the first time, well, we are Geekcentric, a podcast focusing on the world of TV, movies, games, toys, and collectibles, and all things geekcentric. Of course, just like Randall couldn't possibly run the quick stop on his own, joining me today on the program, he's the Dante to my Randall, the J to my Silent Bob. He likes all kinds of movies because he's no film snob. He just turned 30, so he's no longer a young pup. But before he watches a movie, he loves to spark one up. What's up, Darce? How are you today?
I'm good. I have indulged in some greenery before sitting down to talk about this because I feel like it's only right to talk about Kevin Smith under the influence of his favorite green.
I think it's almost a requirement for a review like this, and I mean, I think he came onto the stage before the movie stoned. He smoked during the movie and came back for his Q&A even more stoned, and he looked pretty ripe when we met him backstage afterwards. So,
oh yeah, I mean, he was talking about how he recently signed a partner deal with some weed company up here to bring his own strain up here. So I can't wait to try that out because looking at him, it's good stuff.
Yeah, that's too true. No, that is actually going to be very cool to try out some official Jay and Silent Bob smokery, if you will. I hope they have names like Snoochie Boochies and stuff like that. But we'll definitely be keeping an eye open for that. Now, as someone that's been a Kevin Smith fan since the time I first saw Dogma, that was my first Kevin Smith movie. You know, because of that, when I heard he was going to go on tour to promote his latest movie and that there was a chance to actually meet the man, I was stoked for the opportunity. I wanted to ask you, Darce, me personally, I've seen all but 2 Kevin Smith movies, so I'm wondering how much of the View Askew universe, which is, of course, the world within which most of Kevin Smith's movies take place, have you explored?
I think I'm around 2 or 3 out myself. I know I haven't seen the most recent Jay and Silent Bob reboot. I want to check that out now after seeing this movie because I forgot that there was one. So that was exciting. But yeah, no, I don't think I've seen Jersey Girl or I can't think of the other one off the top of my head. But Mallrats is the first one I watched. Tusk. I know I haven't seen Tusk.
Yep. And then I don't think I've seen the Hosers one.
Yoga Hosers? I did watch that.
Yoga
one,
Hosers.
So, yeah.
Okay. But so you said Mallrats was your first.
Mallrats was my first experience with in the View Askew universe, and I quickly fell in love with the world and universe that he was creating in those movies.
Absolutely. There's a very unique and particular flair that Smith brings to most of his movies. And, you know, I respect that he did try for at least a while to branch out with that. He tried a few different things with the aforementioned Tusk, with Red State, Jersey Girl, which actually is far better than you could ever believe. It's actually a really sweet, lovely movie. Maybe in my opinion, the last good movie he actually made.
I'll have to check it out then.
Yeah, so I would honestly recommend people checking that out. But with this movie, obviously with the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, he's going back to his roots. There's rumors of a Mallrats sequel that he's working on, and then as part of the Q&A after the movie, he even teased that he'd like to complete the Jay and Silent Bob trilogy with another movie there in a few years. So yeah, he doesn't seem to be slowing down for better or worse. I'll maybe elaborate on that a bit more as we get into our thoughts on the movie. But first, I wanted to talk about the actual convenience tour experience. Kevin Smith is currently on a 50-city tour across North America exclusively, I think, based on the dates that I saw, where he's showing the movie and he's presenting the fans in attendance with a Q&A after the film. And then for an additional fee, you can also partake in a VIP experience which we did, where we got to meet and have our pictures taken with Smith, and also received a signed copy of the Clerks III script. So I just wanted to start. What did you think of the Q&A and VIP experience, Darce?
Well, the Q&A was great. Kevin Smith can talk for as long as he wants to about anything, and I'll listen, because this guy is so entertaining. And he really only answered 4 questions over that whole an hour-long Q&A, even though it was only supposed to be half an hour. He just loved to talk, and the stories he was telling was great. So that was awesome. And meeting him afterwards, he had just stepped outside for a joint, so he was in a great mood, which I think goes a long way when you're meeting someone. They're happy to be there too, because he's high. You're always happy when you're high.
Yes, big time. And I think he seems like a pretty jovial guy just around the clock. Anytime you ever see him doing interviews, if he's talking about movies and meeting his fans, he seems like he's genuinely enjoying the experience. And he really was one of those celebrities where you actually felt like he cared about meeting you. He was spending as much time as his handlers would let him, listening to his fans tell their Kevin Smith stories about what the movies meant to him, and it was only when the photographer and the other people running the event made people leave that they'd actually have to get out of the way for the next person to take the picture. So it definitely was one of those genuine meet and greet experiences that it was nice to meet your hero in a matter of words, and it actually be a good experience.
100%. I haven't done many meet and greets personally myself. I've met a couple bands and stuff like that, but they're always very rushing you through quickly, and even the guys signing or meeting aren't all that thrilled to be there. But like you said, Kevin Smith seems to love his fans just as much as we love him. So it was a very heartfelt experience, even though it was only a few seconds we got with him.
Yeah, it felt like it was longer. It felt like it just felt like it was worth it. Now, was it worth because this was no cheap experience. This was between the movie ticket, which was close to $50, and then the VIP experience, which was another $140, $150. This was close to a $200 event, which is by far the most I've ever spent on a movie. Would you say it was worth that price?
Well, when you look at some of the other meet and greet prices, like at Fan Expo, and you're getting just a quick through the plexiglass shot sometimes these last few years and stuff like that, it kind of seems worth it because we shook his hand. He talked to us for a few seconds each type thing as he went down the line signing stuff for us, and then we got to meet him backstage again for the photo. I think it was worth it when you, again, comparing it to other meet and greets. Now, would I continue to do meet and greets? No, because I still think they're very overpriced and ridiculous for what they are.
I agree. And so, like you said, at least with this one, he gave everyone a hug. He maybe ask your name or like I said, listen to people talk for a few seconds there. You got the signed script, which is really, really cool. We're apparently we were supposed to get lanyards. Those got caught over the border, which interestingly enough, this is not the first time we have heard the lanyards got stuck at the border excuse. I'm wondering what it is that the Canadian border has about letting lanyards over from the United States, but they've promised us that they're shipping them out to is it Gotham Comics in Mississauga?
Gotham Central, Mississauga, yeah.
And Kevin Smith claims that this is one of his favorite comic book stores. And as soon as he said that, before they even said that that's where we were going to be able to pick up our lanyards, I thought, wow, that'd be a fun little, afternoon trip out to the SOG to check it out. So now we have a reason to. So I definitely think we're going to do that and check it out, because it's always neat to check out a different comic book store. And when somebody who owns a comic book store is saying it's worth a visit, it definitely seems like it is. All right, let's get to our thoughts on the film. Clerks III is a workplace comedy written, produced, directed, and edited by Kevin Smith. After suffering a near-death experience, Randall enlists Dante, Elias, and Jay and Silent Bob to make a movie about the convenience store that started it all. The film stars Brian O'Halloran, Jeff Anderson, Trevor Furman, Austin Zazure, Jason Mewes, and Rosario Dawson, as well as a slew of celebrity cameos, which is very much expected in a Kevin Smith movie of this variety. Let's just jump right in. Darce, what were your thoughts on the film? What worked? What didn't? I know normally we sort of go what worked and then what didn't, but for me, they very much mesh together. So I think we're just going to have a general open discussion here about the film.
Sounds good. Yeah, well, I mean, when he opened up the show before he started the movie, and this is before the Q&A and everything like that, he said, this is basically a high school reunion where you're catching up with all these people you haven't seen in years and you're surprised at where they are in their life now. And I feel like that sentiment rings true after seeing the movie. It was fun catching up with all these characters. They lots of laughs and fun to be had. But at the same time, there were some lulls in the pacing and stuff like that. And had I not been in the crowd with all that energy, I think it would have felt a lot longer and dragged on a bit more, unfortunately.
Absolutely. I mean, there's when the movie worked, it actually really did work, and it was some of the best moments from Kevin Smith movies that I've seen recently. You know, when they're actually making the film, when they're making fun of Kevin Smith movies and paying homage to Clerks, the movie really, really worked. But unfortunately, those moments are almost too few and far between, and those moments in between were just, they were so, maybe it was rushed, maybe it was, maybe Kevin needs to work with some new people to get some fresh ideas. I'm not sure what it was, but some of it just came off a little amateurish, a little bush league. It didn't feel like the work of a director making his 15th movie. You know what I mean? It felt almost film school in a lot of the ways, where it was just the most generic dialogue possible and that sort of thing.
As a director too, I know it's kind of his thing to do this, the one-on shots during a conversation and flip between the two angles, but this movie felt like it leaned on that a lot. It almost had me wondering, like, how many of these scenes were filmed with them standing across from each other because of the angles that they were shooting at. It just seemed very odd and was kind of taking me out of it, being like, well, where's that person you're talking to off camera? Because I'm supposed to be where they are and you're not looking at me, type thing. It was very odd.
Oh, that's interesting. And now I know that much like the first Clerks movie, they went and filmed in the actual Quick Stop location, which is actually, interestingly enough, owned by the son of the person who owned it when the first movie was made. But now, unlike the first movie, where they were forced to film at night and had to revolve the whole story around that with the shutters closed and everything, they closed the store down for 2 weeks and got to film there. But I wonder if, because it wasn't a set, that maybe limited a bit of how they were able to film some of those scenes, and that's why it came off that way.
Yeah, maybe it's just some of those, like you said, great dialogue and stuff like that, but some of the shooting and decisions made when portraying these conversations kind of had me scratching my head, being like, I understand what you're going for, but why was this the best execution?
Yes, absolutely. Now, in terms of performances, I actually thought Brian O'Halloran and particularly Jeff Anderson as Dante and Randall, respectively, were pretty good. I thought they, especially when the movie leaned more towards less of the comedic side and more of the heartfelt, meaningful stuff, I thought they had some pretty good performances that maybe deserved a better script to sort of house those performances.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly there. It was they were great when it was working, and then when, again, they kind of fell back as they went through, like, okay, now we need to get to this scene and explain why we're going there. And it's just like, no, spend more time with those two and their relationship, because we get so little of it that you remember who the characters are, but you want to know where the characters have been, because it's been so long since we last seen them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, one standout performance for me from the film was Trevor Furman, who reprised his role as Elias from Clerks 2.
So good.
He was genuinely, in my opinion, the funniest part of the movie. And I
Hands
think
down,
he took some weird and awkward things and made them funny with just his commitment to them. And yeah, he was genuinely funny.
I loved him in Clerks too, and just the fact that they completely took his character in a different direction, but still it's still the same guy. I thought it was hilarious and great. I loved it. Like you said, funniest part of the movie.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm almost surprised that Trevor Furman doesn't get more work. I wonder if that's he stepped away from acting entirely, because when you see how he can play awkward and yet confident in this movie at the
so
same
good.
time. He plays it so well.
Yeah.
And he's quite charming and endearing in this movie. And it's nice to see him almost get the upper hand on Randall in this movie rather than being the pushover that he was in Clerks 2. There was almost a lot of nice growth from his character that I unfortunately don't think you saw in Randall enough, even though that was the point of the movie.
Yeah, I feel like the growth with Randall, like again, it starts off with the premise of him having had that heart attack, and then it goes from there. And where you think the growth to happen, it takes so long that by the time you actually do start to see him make a change, it's too late. And again, I feel like that kind of is the point of the story, but it is a bit disappointing to see because when Randall is learning and seeing the error in his way, that was the moment where I was tearing up and really connecting with the story. But then again, they deviate and go make some silly joke, and it's like, could have stuck with that a bit longer and have it, ring true more.
Absolutely. And now I have to say there's a whole ton of celebrity cameos in the movie, and we won't go into detail about who it's fun to have those be a nice surprise, but this has to be the biggest list of celebrity cameos I think I've ever seen in a Kevin Smith movie.
Yeah, for sure. And I just like how some of them are just for a 1 second scene, and then that's it. And it's just, again, I love how Kevin Smith has a connection with all these stars and is beloved enough that people will come in and play these silly one-off roles.
Yeah, because obviously when you get somebody like Ben Affleck, it's because they've worked together so much in the past. But okay, fine. There's Sarah Michelle Gellar makes an appearance here, and I don't recall her being in any of Kevin Smith's earlier movies, and so it just goes to show just how much of a connection he does end up getting in the Hollywood world with these people, just meeting them, that they seem to genuinely like him enough that it's like, sure, I'll fly out to New Jersey or wherever it is that they filmed all those cameo scenes, and I'll be in your movie for 5 minutes. Like you have to really earn people coming out to do that for you, and I guess Kevin Smith has gotten that reputation in Hollywood. Yeah,
I guess so. I mean, one of my favorite cameos from this recent movie was just Randall mansplaining the Mandalorian to Amy Sedaris' character, and it's just like, as a viewer, that was just hilarious to me. It's like she knows what she's talking about, but then the character, of course, doesn't know a thing about the Mando, and it's so well written. These cameos, he knows how to use stars in a way that'll be just them being there will bring a smile to your face.
It's funny. It took me till almost the end of their little scene to figure out where I knew her from, and then it really brought the whole Mando joke to the front. And that scene alone is kind of the dichotomy of the film, where I liked it or didn't like it, because their interactions on the surgery table are terrific. It's some of the best writing in the movie. And then you shift to her as the doctor explaining to him what his heart attack was, and it just came off not as a fun movie dialogue, but as like a PSA about taking care of your health. And that could have been an underlying idea in the movie without it being so just like generically force-fed to us.
I mean, again, without going into spoilers and stuff like that, Kevin Smith even addressed that during the Q&A about why it was so in your face. And it makes sense with, again, going the way that story does, but without knowing that, when you're first sitting down to watch the movie and not knowing where the story is going, it is very jarring. And like you said, PSA, where you're like, okay, I understand. I want to laugh right now. I don't want to think about my heart being clogged.
Yeah. I think you can get that message across without making your audience feel bad about the popcorn they're eating while watching the movie. So yeah, I just think that's where the balance was a little bit off. But that sort of is a theme throughout the movie. But why don't we sort of wrap it up by giving our overall thoughts on the movie and giving it a score on a scale of 1 to 5 Jesus kites.
Oh, the kites. Well, are we doing the movie or the whole experience?
That's a great question. You know what? Why don't you talk about the experience in the movie, give your score for the movie, and then maybe if the experience bumps up that score, explain why.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, I, again, have talked about how much I enjoyed this movie, and I also have mentioned what I didn't like and how it dragged on a bit, but again, because we saw it at this event where there were so many diehard fans there who have loved the View Askew universe and wanted to spend that money to go see it with this crowd, it definitely went a long way to ramping up those funny moments and making those long drawn out periods feel a bit shorter because there is such a reaction to the funny parts. The overall story I found very it drew me in and was very I was very invested in it by the end of it. It was just, again, some of that pacing had me falling out of it a bit as we were going through it. Overall, I really like that movie. I think it was a solid entry in the View Askew universe. I'd say it's a solid 3.5 out of 5 Jesus kites. But because we saw it and the experience we got afterwards talking to Kevin Smith and him talking about how the original script was completely different and where he got his connection to movies from through his dad and all that stuff, really brought up what I thought back about that movie. And I'm like, this is his love letter to his dad and why movies are so important to people out there. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it. So it would definitely bring up the score to at least a 4 out of 5 Jesus kites, because hearing him talk about it really made the movie stand out a lot more in my memory.
Nice. Okay. So I definitely think you're a bit higher on the movie than I was. As I said earlier, it's kind of like Smith came up with a few fun ideas for the movie and then just quickly rushed to piece them together into a film. And so it's those long stretches in between the great jokes, the nods to the original Clerks, and even some poignant reflections on friendship and the frailty of life that sort of anchors the movie toward at the end. Those just came off as extremely amateurish. I don't know. It's just, I talked about how the hospital scene, there was some terrific writing, and then he's like, well, I also have to mention stuff about a heart attack, so I'll just quickly put this together. And the lack of balance between the quality of writing in even just the same scenes was really staggering for me. I generally find that Kevin Smith's movie at least have a consistent tone throughout. And so maybe he was trying something a little different here. Clearly, this is the most personal of his movies. When you hear him talking about how it was his own heart attack as well as the death of his father that really was the basis for the story that he put together here. I just felt like it didn't quite feel like a filmmaker writing and directing their 14th movie. It felt like a film student who was learning how to write a script for the first time. And I mean, we're so far removed from that. We're almost 30 years from that stage of Kevin's career. And I mean, if you go and look at his IMDb, his last 4 movies are probably amongst my least favorite that he's done. And so that almost feels like a regression, unfortunately, because I did find that, in the early 2000s, he was really hitting a stride with his own identity, his own unique kind of filmmaking. And so while I really appreciated the elements of this that paid tribute and homage to his early days as a filmmaker, I just felt that this script could have used a bit more attention to detail for some of those in-between moments where the script just didn't quite land for me. But again, there's some great performances here from our 3 leads. Jay and Silent Bob, they do their part here pretty well. They have the role that you kind of expect them to have in a movie like this. And Jason Mewes has just always been, ever since the first time you see him dancing outside of the convenience store or whatnot, he's just a unique character in film history that I'm always happy to see, even if just for a few minutes. I think fans of Kevin Smith, in particular Clerks, will really appreciate some of the subtle details of this one. I think if you're a fan of Kevin Smith in general, you'll get enough Kevin Smith in this movie to enjoy it. But it is a bit of a departure in terms of the seriousness that he tries to tackle within the movie here. And that either works really, really well or it falls a little flat, which is unfortunate. And I'm not sure how well this movie would resonate with somebody who hasn't experienced many Kevin Smith movies or isn't a big fan of the Clerks movies. So on that note, I'm going to give this, seems a little low, but I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 5 Jesus Kites, just because it didn't quite click. It didn't quite run on all cylinders for me. So yeah, the movie itself gets a 2.5 out of 5 Jesus Kites. But like you said, Darcy, the experience of getting to hear him talk about the movie really did enrich what the experience and what it means to him. Getting to meet him, it's always nice when those things sort of live up to or even exceed your expectations. He genuinely seems like somebody who cares about his fans and who likes to make movies for his fans. And so I think that puts him on a whole different level of filmmaker than a lot of people out there. Whether he's on their level as a filmmaker, that's to be debated. But I think as a person, you're going to be hard pressed to find somebody quite like him out there. And so I'll bump it right up to a 4 with you, because I really did enjoy that experience. And it, after 20 plus years of being a fan, it lived up to expectations.
Yeah, and I mean, we're talking about the script and everything like that, how it feels kind of rushed in some spots. And having flipped through the script that we got, there seemed to be an intention to use Ranger Danger scenes, which is their in-universe Avengers team, as ways to cut between things. And I'm glad that they didn't do that, because I feel like we'd be even more disjointed with the way that the story was paced because of that. So it's that was a cool thing to get from the script, because now I can look back and say, oh, they did change some things, and I think it worked when they did make those changes.
Nice. And I mean, part of the Q&A, a lot of the Q&A was actually dedicated to him talking about his original idea for the movie. And while I'm not sure if it would have worked, it certainly would have been a bigger risk to take in terms of the story he wanted to tell there. And it's interesting because I know that originally him and the actor who plays Randall, I don't know why I'm forgetting his name.
Jeff Anderson?
Yeah. Jeff Anderson, yes. They actually had a falling out over a potential script for Clerks 3 to the point where the movie wasn't going to get made. And I wonder if it's because it was quite a controversial set of ideas that involved school shooting and a lot of violence. And then it was actually at a Clerks fan event where they were signing autographs and meeting with fans and got to talking that Kevin Smith said, okay, I'm going to change what I want to do with the script here because I want to work with you again and I want to find, something that we can work on together that you'll enjoy making. And so, yeah, it's just interesting when you get to hear his perspective on the transformation and the growth of this movie from where it started to where it ended up, because it was drastically different.
Yeah.
But there you have it. That's our spoiler-free-ish review for Clerks 3, as well as our experience of the Clerks 3 Convenience Tour. The movie's available pretty much wherever you rent digital movies and will be available on demand, Blu-ray, and DVD on December 6th. We want to know, did you or will you be attending the Clerks 3 Convenience Tour? And if you've seen the movie, where does it rank amongst Kevin Smith's movies for you? You can let us know at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com, or if that's a bit too much like checking expiry dates on milk cartons, and you'd rather find the perfect dozen eggs, you can hit us up on Twitter at GeekcentricYT and on Instagram at WeAreGeekcentric. Obviously, you need to be a Clerks fan to get that reference, and if you're not, I'm not even sure what you're doing here, but we're glad you're here anyways. As always, we have plenty of awesome content to check out. We recently finished our She-Hulk Attorney at Law Watch Club and are right in the middle of our watch club for Andor on Disney+. We have our spoiler-free review of Black Adam, as well as our experience at the Black Adam Rocks Canada event. We have our weekly show, This Week in Geek, where we take a look at the latest news, trailers, and more from around the Geekiverse. So check those out wherever you listen to podcasts, and be sure to leave us a review so we know what you thought. Plus, we have a ton of interviews with the casts and crew of some of the biggest movies of the year. Those interviews can be found wherever you listen to podcasts or can be watched on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/geekcentric. We're always working on bringing you new content, and it's going to be a busy stretch here at Geekcentric to end the year, so keep your eyes and ears open for a ton of content coming your way. But until then, as we say,
laters.
Get home safe, guys. Love ya. Peace. Snoochie Boochie.